Welcome back to Comic Book Nation Season 5, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today I have my regular Comic Book Nation crew in the studio here in Nashville. With me is Mr. Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
And from their home studios or on vacation or visiting family or something or another, I don't keep track of everybody's summer schedules, but Janelle Wheeler and Connor and Casey are both with us too. And yeah, program note, this is one of Matt's last times in the illustrious comic book studios, because Matt's skipping town. He's out of here, baby. He's not leaving Comic Book Nation, don't worry, but he's not leaving comicbook.com, don't worry. We all need paychecks, but Matt is moving. So he won't be a local boy anymore.
No.
So take a good look with these nice high-def cameras. He's got all cut up. He's all fresh for you. Get a good look in, because you're going to get that webcam zoom angle from here. I think we got one more show, and then it's webcam zoom angles from all that. Meanwhile, all of you at home, dust off everything you got at home, because your asses are coming back in here into this studio soon. So shifts happening on the show. Everybody, musical chairs. Some people are going to the home studios. Some people are coming back to the studios. But we're going to miss you, Matt, because you and me kind of started this out in Season 1 on that awkwardly small couch that we all had to sit on. And it's been a good time. And if you don't know, the show kind of started from me and Matt being left in the office on Fridays and kind of just talking about stuff. So, yeah, we're going to miss you, buddy. But we got a couple shows to do. And we're going to do that. I'm getting notes. Richard says, you can't see me. I can't see me because the monitor, I can't see myself at the monitor right now. But apparently there's a microphone in front of my face. So that we don't miss out on this lovely mug. I think I lowered it enough. But that's just for the viewers. For the audio people, here's what we're going to be doing on this episode of Comic Book Nation. I teased you that this is a thicker show that we got going today, and it is. We do it all for geek culture, and we certainly are going to get into most of it today. So in our rundown, we're going to be talking about some news. We got to talk about what happened with Secret Invasion. We're not going to get too deep into the finale or what it means, because we also have another Marvel podcast, Phase Zero, and we did a special episode following the finale with our reactions and talking about the future of the MCU and what the problems are right now. So be sure to download that this week. But we are also going to talk about what's going on with the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which is already gaining enough acclaim to kind of set up a franchise future for that. So we're going to get into that. We got to talk about some new trailers that dropped on the anime side of things. We have reviews for two big movie TV releases this week, Disney's Haunted Mansion and Peacock's Twisted Metal. Plus, we will talk a little bit about Secret Invasion. And we have a whole cartoon corner that Connor's going to be getting into, because there's a lot of animated series, which may be our bread and butter for the foreseeable future, given the strike. So there's a lot on the small screen going on. There's stuff happening in wrestling. We've got to talk about The Witcher. We can't have Matt's last shows without discussing The Witcher, of course. And this is Comic Book Nation, so we will talk about comics. So like I said, thick show. Let's get into it right at the top. Janelle.
Yes.
Tell us about the not-so-illustrious legacy of Marvel's Secret Invasion.
Yes. So we've been talking about this for quite a while. We've been covering the show as it has progressed. And it's turning out to be that we aren't the only ones that think that maybe this is the weakest entry in the Disney Plus lineup under Kevin Feige. Secret Invasion is Marvel Studios' first rated rotten TV show on Rotten Tomatoes. I was not surprised by this piece of news, but it turns out that it has gotten a 57% rotten. It's only above Iron Fist.
Wow.
And ABC's Inhumans, which is wild. But honestly, looking back at a lot of the ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm actually really shocked to hear that I think Miss Marvel was the highest rated.
Yeah.
And WandaVision was only at 91% and Moon Knight was at 86%. I'm actually really shocked by that. It's really interesting, but I am not shocked about this Secret Invasion news. What do you guys think about this? Do you think this is fitting? Do you think it should be rated rotten?
I mean, I'm not rating it fresh. Is anybody here rating it fresh?
No.
Hell no.
So that's a small sampling right there. I mean, that's an easy one to knock out. Is anybody actually going to put up and say they would rate this thing fresh? Not me.
I do. So it is. So to understand, it is above Inhumans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is. Oh, yes.
I mean,
It's at 57%. So Inhumans is percent, and Iron Fist is 37%.
Okay.
This is 57%.
Okay, I think that's fair because
Yeah, I mean, that's
it's
fair.
not a.
Yeah.
It's not the worst show I've ever seen.
No. And
It's just
Right.
yeah. So
like I
agree.
said, we're not going to go too deep because we did a whole episode talking about what this show did or didn't do, and we're going to talk about it later. But I think it's fair. I think that this is a show where the sum was never equal to the parts. The parts were all good, kind of the plot lines and the actors who were involved, but it just never, because of the writing or whatever, it just never gelled into something significant. Or it didn't start the water cooler.
Yes.
It didn't do really anything. It just was here. So I feel like, but it wasn't so bad. But so I think that's a fair rating. And we're going to talk more about Secret Invasion after the break. We're going to kind of just touch on the finale episode and kind of want to hear from Janelle and see what everybody thinks right about now that we've had a couple days to process it. But for me, I think we could just say we all agree that's a pretty fair rating for us. So
Right. Agreed. Yes. So I guess we could just move it on forward because we're going to go a little more into depth on that in the future of the show. So we'll slide right into some really good news and exciting news, especially for people of a certain generation that have been loving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles forever, like myself. I know. You guys are kind of in the same boat. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is getting a spin-off series. It's in the works with Paramount Plus. And it's getting a sequel. The movie that's coming out will be getting a sequel, and I think that's really good news for anyone who's a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I love seeing this live on. It makes me really happy. And this is a collaboration, I think, between Nickelodeon and Paramount for this movie. From what,
which sure,
yes, from
I don't
what
know.
I know.
I think we're all under the same umbrella now. Yeah, we're all under the mountain
and
of
I
entertainment.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including
I
this show.
think it's really done them well.
Yeah, this is good stuff. I mean, it's good for Seth Rogen for sure in his pockets.
It always instills confidence too that like when this kind of thing comes out before a movie is released, that they have faith in it and that it's one of those things where you're not going to see a one and done die on the vine type thing, you know?
No, and the first reviews are also in for this movie. It's looking pretty good. While people say it may not be Spider-Verse, it's one of the better Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboots, because we get a reboot like every couple years of Ninja Turtles in some form or fashion. Some of them have been pretty out there and just not so hot. Or it's one of those things like Mario where it's been like every generation has their version of the Turtles.
Love that.
Ours is still the best, obviously, if you're an 80s, 90s kid, but everybody has their version, whether it's the original Eastman Laird, kind of more violent take of the comics, or the 80s, 90s kind of goofy reinvention. The wild, pill-addled 2000s ADD version of Turtles Everywhere, the anime ripoffs, like, you know, there's a lot of different versions. But this one from, Seth Rogen and company with real teenagers and its unique takes on like Jackie
really
Chan,
fun.
Splinter, and Ice Cube as Superfly. And
I'm
like
super excited for this. John Cena.
Yeah, we got a screening tomorrow. I'm taking my son to a screening tomorrow. If he's watching this, that's your surprise. But if you don't know, like,
I
guess
tried
what we're doing.
everything to make that.
Oh,
thing.
yeah?
I called everybody like, hey, I need a sitter. we figured this out. I tried like to move Earth to get to that thing. I was so bummed.
Sorry, buddy.
But it just shows that like I'm excited. It looks cool and fresh and awesome.
Yeah, it's a late summer one that I'm kind of psyched about. So I mean that's good news. It's good news for Paramount. Good news for us. So.
And it's really good news that they're kind of bringing in a lot of people that have been working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles content for so many years. I love all of the people behind it, and I think that's why they're doing such a good job with it.
I agree.
So, yeah, exciting.
All right, and finally on the news front, I just want to shout out Netflix's Castlevania Nocturne trailer. So Castlevania became this unexpected anime breakout hit thanks to large part my boy Adi Shankar, who's a friend of this show. But they're keeping the franchise going, and we're getting Castlevania Nocturne, which is a kind of adaptation of at least the first one of these famous Castlevania games, which are Rondo of Blood, which was this Japanese release that became really popular and then got re-released for Super Nintendo as Castlevania Dracula X, which featured the character changing from Simon Belmont to one of the other kind of Belmont family descendants, Richter Belmont, and a new power set. It was one of the games, and it led to a sequel game called Castlevania Symphony of Night, which is, of course, this now iconic kind of dark horse cult hit game that, like, slowly but surely broke out and kind of not only reinvented Castlevania, but also ushered in what I guess gamers call, like, that whole Metroid verse or whatever it is. Metroidvania. Yeah, action adventure games that then added, because Super Metroid, I think, was the one that kind of, like, started action adventure games that had more of an exploration element to them and free exploration and all that. So it revolutionized Castlevania games, but it also became iconic. The characters, the kind of aesthetic inventions
Alucard
they did.
has just been a...
Alucard, yeah, and Richter. So this is going to be Richter's time to shine. I think we already got Alucard in the first series, but this is going to be Richter Belmont's time to shine, and we're going to get the kind of Castlevania meets anime, which who knew this would all combine and work so well. But here we are. And so the artwork and the anime level of animation in this trailer and just the aesthetic from kind of taking on those games with their kind of glorious goth overtones and all that. This looks like it's going to be another good time for this franchise. And even though it's a kind of new creative team, I'm looking forward to this. So shout out to all our anime heads. We're keeping an eye, and our gaming heads, we're kind of keeping an eye on this one. But yeah. This Castlevania Netflix, I mean, I'm glad they're not letting this go because, like I said, I mean, the animation level alone looks pretty beautiful. So, and it looks like it's going to be violent.
Yeah, it's great really action. Pretty.
And I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, check that out on comicbook.com gaming because it's going to be hyped. So, that is our news section. And I didn't mean to talk over everybody. Does anybody have burning thoughts on Castlevania Nocturne before we move on?
I do.
I'm
Connor, sorry. What do you want to say?
So after the first season of the Netflix series came out, I was one of those guys who did a big old wiki deep dive into the Castlevania franchise. And the big takeaway I had was that Richter is like obscenely powerful compared to the rest of the Belmont family.
Yeah.
So even though it's 300 years after everything that happened with Trevor, this is going to be massive. And I really hope season 2, they just say, it's Symphony of the Night. We're doing it. You hear Alucard's voice in the trailer. I don't think you see him, but he's going to play a big role in this season if they're trying to adapt Rondo of Blood. So I'm all for this.
No, they're going to go Symphony of Night. I mean, obviously you start here and then you go into that game, which is like one of the most iconic and famous Castlevania games there is. So if that's not the plan, then Netflix is just continuing and loved losing money. But hopefully not. All right, let's talk about our two big reviews of the week. On the movie side, we are going to talk about Disney's Haunted Mansion. I think I'm the only one who saw that here. So let's talk about Haunted Mansion. So I went and saw Disney's Haunted Mansion. I don't usually go out for the Disney stuff, but I was curious to see what Justin Simeon did with this, and I was also curious to see if we were getting back to maybe some kind of that Amblin era of kids having to go through and see scary things. Because I'm a big believer, I know Phase Zero's Jamie Girac is this is one of her favorite rants as well, but I do believe kids need more scary content. Like we grew up with Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, yes. Goonies are trying to outrun murderous, possibly cannibal serial killer families. Like, you know, things were real, like, when we were growing up. Yeah. Indiana Jones, you got people's faces
Labyrinth?
getting melted.
Labyrinth, yep.
Yeah,
Dark Crystal.
Yeah, getting snatched out of your
Dark
bed
Crystal.
in the night. Like, you know, it let us know that the world could be a little dangerous. In every adventure, even never-ending story, like, there's some heavy stuff in every single movie that let you know, like, this is either scary or tragic or, like,
Land
stuff
Before
happens.
Time has, like,
Dude,
so
The
many...
Last Unicorn, I mean, like, it was pretty real.
American Tail.
Yeah, people were still coming out of that. They did this on the Sunny podcast. Shout out to other podcasts. But, yeah, it was coming off the acid years of people making content before we got to and then we went right into the cocaine years, and then it was just like, yeah, they were not looking out for our well-being. They were just like, kids, you need to know how real it is out here. Unicorns die, flame bulls, like, yeah.
I mean, even like Ren and Stimpy scared the crap
Ren
out
and
of
Stimpy,
me.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was wildly inappropriate for kids. But anyway. There's so much of that. Yeah, they're just their bedroom life. I mean, Jesus. God. Anyway. So I went to Haunted Mansion, that's all to say.
It's going off the rails.
Thinking that there's a grenade in every show. If you were just getting into Comic Book Nation,
my God.
there's a grenade. We never know where it's going to be,
It
where
went
we're going to
south
go off the
so
rails.
quickly.
But yeah, this is apparently today's. But Disney's Haunted Mansion, I'm sorry to say, it never really kind of commits to that scary thing. And this is a kind of a case where the tone and the exact angle of doing this is kind of lost in this movie a little bit. There is a very kind of heartfelt story, which I actually enjoyed the most. Like, Lakeith Stanfield is the main character in this, and there's a big kind of heartfelt story about why he's been looking for ghosts and what that means to him and what the spirit side and, like, what he's trying to do with all that is kind of a deep story. But a lot of it is just comedic banter between the cast, who are excellent together. Like, Owen Wilson is hilarious in this movie. Danny DeVito's a scene stealer. Tiffany Haddish is great with her kind of like New Orleans medium character, and like I said, Lakeith does the dramatic stuff really well, and Rosario Dawson's there and awesome as usual. And you got people like Jamie Lee Curtis coming in and stuff like that. So there's a lot of great scenes of just seeing these actors on screen together, kind of fooling around, bantering, acting weird and doing stuff and offbeat, and it's all very good. That part of it's actually really entertaining. The scares aren't really that scary, or they're like a little too scary. Like it kind of never nails that tone. Like, there are certain parts that are going to be too scary for kids about like who's doing what and like who the main bad guy is. Who's like, they got Jared Leto for this movie to play a ghost who's in full like prosthetic makeup and has like his voice altered too. So it's no real reason for it to be Jared Leto, but he's there. Janelle, that's for you. But yeah, he's in there. So it's kind of weird touches like that, but it is very offbeat and it feels like offbeat in terms of tone. Because you got to also throw in like the Haunted Mansion ride references with like the hologram
That's what I was
pictures.
going to ask you
and
about,
like,
Kofi.
yeah, no, they do all those nods to the Haunted Mansion ride.
Okay, because that's my
that.
favorite Disney World ride, and that's the only reason why I'd want to see this film.
So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you can pretty much figure out how easy and obvious those are. Characters are walking down hallways that extend. You know, the pictures, the ghosts come out of the pictures or mess around.
The growing room.
Yeah, that's
when
like
I
a
saw
growing
that,
room. Yeah,
I
that's where you just saw that. Where there's a whole thing with crocodiles in the growing room.
Yep,
and like,
the crocodile.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
all
gosh.
of that is kind of the ride is put into the movie. But again, that just makes for a kind of mildly entertaining haunted house movie. But again, there's so much seriousness to some of one side of this story that it feels, like I said, just offbeat. So I say all that to say that this is a good watch, but I don't think I would recommend and say, you know, theatrical watch.
Yeah.
Which is where we're back in this bouncing kind of thing with theaters and how many movies we're getting versus how many we actually need in theaters. Like, Barbenheimer can carry us for 3 weeks, right? Like, Mission Impossible, understandably, got swept up because it came out right before Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
And now this is coming out right afterwards, and it's like,
It's gonna get
neither of
ignored.
those movies
Yeah.
are
have a
necessarily
question.
ones you need to see in theaters as opposed to Barbie or Oppenheimer. You know what I mean?
So why? I'm just curious, like, why this wasn't a fall release
Yes.
like around Halloween. Like, this is the perfect Halloween. I would dress up and like go see this. And, like,
Why is it coming out in July?
Because people really overestimated that the summer movie season was coming back. They put all these movies on the slate, and now we found out in 2023 we don't do this much anymore.
It's just so dumb. Like, this is like such a perfect fit.
It's
for the
good.
fall.
It'll be
will
on
be
Disney
watching
Plus in
this.
time for Halloween. I guarantee
Yes.
you that. Okay, so everybody hang
This will
tight.
probably be a staple for me once.
Yeah.
Like, I watch the same Halloween movies every year. Like, this will probably get added to it.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean,
that was part of the strategy. You think that was part of the strategy? Like, get it out, get what money you can, but like, our goal is to get it on Disney Plus around
Halloween time.
Halloween time and let it pick up a bunch of streaming stuff for then. Because that is, I mean, these are great. I would watch this
can
on
see
streaming in a heartbeat.
No, that's what I said, and
Yeah.
that was my
I'm not
takeaway.
going to the
Even
theater.
when I came out, and Inside Baseball, but when we go to screenings, there's like PR people afterwards we got to talk to and kind of give our impressions so the studios get to know like the general word cloud of how people are feeling. And I was like, this would have been great if it was on Disney Plus. If you had told me this was like a original on Disney Plus, I'd have been there. But I get why it's theatrical. They got a lot of big people in it, and you know.
What's the
and all
candle's name? Because I need like collectible merch of the little cute candle. There's a little cute candle that talks.
Oh yeah, I forget. Don't ask me.
That's all I saw was pictures of the
don't ask
candle,
me that,
and
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, cute little
Candle
thing
guy.
that's gonna be."
His name is Candle Guy. He's
Yeah,
great.
well,
He's
it's
great.
gonna be on my.
I just think of Beauty and the Beast candle guy.
Oh, Lumiere.
Yeah.
Lumiere, one of the best. Anyway,
But yeah, no, Lakeith Stanfield can definitely hold down a movie. Some people on the YouTube comments are asking how
and
he
he
is.
can hold a candle.
Yeah, he can hold a candle and he can hold down a movie. And like I said, he's funny. He's funny in this. He's weird,
Stupid.
and there's a big dramatic story with him that he does well carrying. There are actual moments in this where I got like a little choked up, and you know, there's a good little kind of tragic love romance story at the heart of this, and so it's good stuff. But would have been great on streaming. That's all I say. Now, let's turn to if you guys haven't, go back and listen to our excellent summer 2023 most anticipated Jesus Christ, and most anticipated TV and movie releases. Because I picked 2 offbeat ones because I looked at what everybody had. We left out The Flash and that, and now it's like, thank God we did. We were so concerned at the end of that show, but we're good on that now. But I picked 2 offbeat genre movies. I'm looking for just like I'm not looking for that long-term romance out of summer. I just need that fun fling. So I needed some good genre TV, B movie, B TV, and I am now getting one of those in Peacock's Twisted Metal. So Twisted Metal came out. It's here. Everybody was like, really? That game we knew once? If you're an old person, there's been a lot of old gamer jokes surrounding this series. A lot of you young gamers.
I didn't feel like Twisted Metal Black came out that long ago, but then I looked at it and was like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah,
That
that was a long time ago.
Came out a long time.
Yeah, so you know, basically a story that a game that none of us really sat down and read the mythology for back and forth.
Nah,
it
bro.
was just questions like, why is homie strapped in a wheel and called Atlas and kind of stuck in there, and what's up with Sweet Tooth and all that, and Nightshade, and all of these things were about as far as we asked. But the Twisted Metal TV series, and I only got to see one episode because Peacock's jerking me around and trying to make me charge me to watch this now, so we're gonna get into that later. But I saw the first premiere episode, and I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised by how much I like this and how much fun it is. I saw it when on the Peacock like main menu, and it was like comedic TV series, and I was like, that is a good label to slap on this because it's very accurate. This is very much a comedy series. It's Anthony Mackie and company, like not taking themselves
so
too seriously.
good in this. He's perfect.
Knowing exactly how ridiculous Twisted Metal is, but how much fun it is, which is the key to this game. It was absolutely ridiculous. Everything about Twisted Metal, and I was like somebody who was young, who was old enough to remember when the PlayStation came out and thinking like, oh my god, this is next level, and like playing those games. It was always ridiculous. Twisted Metal matches were ridiculous, but it was so much fun, right? And this series gets that. And so kind of introducing and building a world around this, I feel like they did know like how much of the game they needed and how much creative license they had, of how much there was nothing to this game, and then built around that. And so I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed like the actual deeper elements you don't get from the games in the first episode, like Nev Campbell. When I didn't even, and I don't watch trailers a lot anymore, so I had no idea Nev Campbell was in this.
I forgot she was in this.
And then she shows up, and I was like, "Oh snap!" Like it's Sydney. And
she's
then,
great,
and she's great in this. And like, yeah, that whole sequence of him just like going back inside and seeing like what society is like when you're inside and have actual luxuries and stuff like that. It brings like a kind of new subtext to all this that was interesting, and just the whole mythology of a milkman and what that is and what you do is great. And more importantly, I love the actions, the vehicular.
Oh, it's so good.
Like,
this scene in particular,
in the
like
mall,
the opening sequence is great. It gives you a perfect idea of what this show is going for. I'm so bummed that because episode 2, and we won't get into spoilers or anything, but like episode 2, I feel like does such a good job of really showcasing, like everyone's excited for Samoa Joe, everyone's excited for Sweet Tooth. Episode 2 is like all Sweet Tooth. And so it's like it's such a I'm on episode 3, And I gotta say, like, even moving into the third episode, they're already starting to do the thing that I wish Walking Dead had done more, because I was always on Walking Dead for, I know the decision was made early tonight to like not, we're not gonna like acknowledge like the thing that turned everything. Like, we're not gonna go and focus on that. It's never about why the world is this way or what happened when or whatever. It's about this, right? And I always pissed me off. It always bugged me. I did not like that choice. And you know, we've talked about things like oh my god, A Quiet Place, like where you actually get to see some of how things went, and like we're starting to get acknowledgments of like how things went down and whatever. I love that we're doing that. And then we switched to Mackie's charm is just off the charts here. It's so good. Like, he's the perfect leading man for this. It's so fun.
Yeah, oh no, if you've ever like met I know that sounds so, oh my God.
Well, no, I mean,
sounds so
you're
elitist
right, though.
what I'm about to say, but if you've ever met Anthony Mackie, and I've had the pleasure of doing it several times, like, this is very much him, like, just riffing, and him getting to riff and do all that stuff is hilarious. He is a really funny guy, and like everything about this is just from like just his butt shot and everything to like, they do when they're just like checking him out and they freshen it and everything, and they're just like, nice button. He's like, yes. Like, you know, it's just hilarious.
It's so good. Janelle, Connor, did you guys get to check this out?
I haven't. If Samoa Joe is good in it, then I'm sold.
Janelle?
I don't have Peacock.
Okay.
Nobody does, Janelle.
I do.
Nobody has
I do.
Peacock, Janelle. It's
I have Peacock.
Except the wrestling guys, they have
admitting
Peacock.
that.
I first got
have
it for Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
So this guy has it for Murder, She Wrote.
I have so many, and I feel kind of sad that I don't have this one.
I just want to see the Venn diagram of people who picked up Peacock for Murder, She Wrote, and what the average age range is for that. And then I want to see where Matt lies on that chart. I need some real scientists on it. Oh,
we
man.
love Matt.
I'm sorry, Janelle. My brain broke right there. I interrupted you. You were saying.
Oh no, you're so good. I'm just laughing with you. It's perfectly said. I love it.
Okay, so can't get over this.
Mojo's great though. They clearly let him just like have fun, and I lost the whole thing of like, oh, that's Samoa Joe. I didn't have that after like 10 minutes. Like, he's this interpretation of Sweet Tooth, and he really gets to have fun. Like, they just also it feels like every big streaming show will kick off some nostalgia kick for a song. Cisco, you're welcome. Like, Cisco and Ricky Martin, you're welcome. Like, those songs are gonna be all over the place again, because people are gonna be, oh man, like, this soundtrack is fun.
Oh yeah, it was good. I was just listening to Cypress Hill Rock Superstar the other day, and that is Stephanie Beatriz, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anybody who was in this. I didn't look it up, but yeah, when I saw her on screen, I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Rosa Diaz. All right, but yeah. So, I mean, weirdly enough, I'm happy I picked this as my kind of most anticipated TV show of summer, because I think it's going to be the most fun if I end up finally shelling out for Peacock or doing whatever I got to do to watch it. To answer some questions in the comments, yes, they released 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. They're all out there, so you can binge it, and I want to really bad, because I was like hooked in. And yeah, this is a fun, just kind of light, mindless action comedy TV series based on an IP that some people are now arguing the comics. Are we old enough to remember or not? But I do. So check that out. Check out Twisted Metal. Let us know what you think. All right, we are going to be taking a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss some things about the Secret Invasion finale real quick. Then there's a lot of animated the future of entertainment for right now, animated releases that hit the screen this week, plus some other live action things we want you guys to know about. So stay tuned for all of that. Wrestling, comics. This is Comic Book Nation. We do it all for geek culture. Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture. If you just missed our first half, we talked a little bit about what's going on in the news with Marvel, Ninja Turtles, and Netflix's next Castlevania anime series. Plus, we dropped our reviews of Disney's Haunted Mansion movie and Peacock's Twisted Metal TV series based on the popular game. Now, we're going to touch, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you missed it this week, we've been putting out lots of bonus round episode content on our Comic Book Nation YouTube page and on our podcast platforms, primarily Apple Podcasts. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to both of those places so you know when the bonus content hits. So, because when things happen in the industry, we are on it more and more. So check that out, because that has a whole discussion about us just coming out of the Secret Invasion finale. Me, Connor, and Matt, like, WTF, and what is Marvel doing? That whole discussion goes down over there, and it is a discussion to be had. So, as we're just talking about this today, we've gotten a chance to hear more from Ali Salim, the director of Secret Invasion. Brandon Davis got to talk to him. We've had exclusive articles up on comicbook.com, Marvel, and the Phase Zero feed. Check those out. But we've confirmed a few things. First of all, Janelle, you didn't get to weigh in with us on our immediate reactions episode because we spazzed out really fast about this and decided we had to tell the world how we felt. Be like men! But what did you feel? How did you feel about Secret Invasion and the ending of this?
This is difficult. I would say that the entire season, in its entirety, was definitely a letdown. I would say that the final episode was not as much of a letdown as some of the others throughout the season. I feel like it kind of started to come together. I can see what they're doing. There was the action that I was hoping for, and a resolution. It is so talky, and it is such a it's supposed to be like Disney Plus's for adult show. And it didn't feel like it was for adults. It felt like a kid could watch this. I mean, I know that sounds a little like aggressive but like I again was brought up on certain like action things, and I don't know. It just didn't feel like an adult exclusive thing, if that's what they were going for. And I don't know. I like action. I like superhero stuff. So this is just not my style of show to begin with. The only thing that's very me in this is like the Skrulls, the actual like aliens. So I don't know. I'm let down because I really, really want Nick Fury to have the moment. Like, I want Nick Fury to be loved and have his time to shine. And it just felt like he was weak in the entire series. And that's not the Nick Fury I want to see. Like, I don't want to see an old jaded Nick Fury. Like, I want to see someone who's rocking out. So, yeah, it was a letdown for me. But I still enjoyed it more than Falcon Winter Soldier.
Dang! This is a grenade right at the end there. I've been
thinking about it in the days, and it's just like, I think in some ways the thing that made Nick Fury so cool in the other ones was kind of like what really kind of hurt the series, which is we didn't have to explain a lot of the gaps in Nick Fury appearances before. He was this guy who could just show up.
Yeah.
And you didn't know how he knew about things. He just did, and that looked cool. He was always informed. He was always one step ahead. He always knew what was going on. And there was some of that to that in this show. But when you make that aspect of a character like the central thing, like they're just going into rooms kind of like playing them, underplaying themselves, playing the old man, the fuddy-duddy, the guy who's lost his step, but he's still, cunning and all that. And even with this fake out in the finale that they pulled between him and Gaia, it's like that stuff is great when it's that character in another place.
Yeah.
A super spy who can pop up and be like, oh, no, I got the answer for you. Or you thought we were in trouble, but I was one step ahead. And it's actually a reverse it. But like when that's the only thing kind of carrying the show, it just makes the character kind of feel hollow. Like there is it's hard to do real doubt, tension, moments where it looks like Fury is actually kind of outmaneuvered. And we're going to do a whole long breakdown of The Witcher after this, but that was one aspect of these last episodes of The Witcher I very much enjoyed, was finally seeing, Geralt overwhelmed and outclassed at a moment.
Yeah.
And they never could decide if, and it's always, I think, also a Sam Jackson thing. Sam Jackson, I think, has clauses that he can't look uncool in certain kind of ways. But, like, yeah, it just never felt like Fury. It never felt like personal enough to make Fury's story, like, resonate with us. But it also felt like all the super spy stuff wasn't as great as we remember him being, or as cool. And it's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's a weird one. Secret Invasion has been a weird one. And I think the biggest other thing we had to talk about is, I know Connor's spazzing about this, but they confirmed that Rhodey has been a Skrull, as I told all of you from the beginning, since Civil War. I told you they would go all the way back to after he got blasted, and the confusion between when he got out of the hospital and was, like, working for the Secretary in Endgame and doing all that, or Infinity War. Like, yeah, he had been replaced, which raises so many problems and questions. My favorite from Twitter this morning was somebody screaming in all caps, then why the hell was his blood red in Endgame? Like, how much does this make sense? Because we saw Rhodey bleed in Endgame, and it wasn't Skrull blood, so Marvel better get those artists in there to do some digital worky work, or just have Rhodey have, like, a dyed droplet or whatever. I'm sorry, my throat is clogged. But Connor, you look like you want to go off about this. How you feel about Rhodey being about what this has done for not just Rhodey, but also Everett Ross, and, like, how long he's been a Skrull and all that. So
I read our exclusive this morning, and I saw the director's comments. He all but outright confirmed it, but he also sort of left the door open that Armored Wars could fix this. And I think it is a perfect example of this show is going to have no cultural relevance. People are going to hate this decision. They're going to look at it and go, "Oh, that decision sucked. We need to undo this." Just say he was a Skrull for like a year in Armored Wars, and that'll get past this, and then it'll all be undone. I'm also seeing conversations now where it's like, hey, isn't Gaia technically like the most powerful figure in this universe now? She's got like everybody's power, including Captain Marvel, and I don't think we're ever going to see her again, which is another example of, yeah, this show does not matter, so who cares?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Gaia thing and Emilia Clarke now being the most powerful figure in the MCU is, and like, it's like, what does Gaia, I mean, that's the part that really just kind of told me they didn't really think this through, is like, now Gaia's that powerful, and it's like, what, after all this about finding Skrulls, a new world, and doing all this, you now have all this power, and she's like, oh, I'll go work for Sonya Farnsworth or whatever on Earth. And it's just like, yeah, I'm wondering, are we going to see either of these two actresses after all this in the backlash of Secret Invasion again, or is it going to be like Poochie, or just like, what's Rachel McAdams in that Game Night? Oh no, they died! There's a bomb! They died! Oh no! So, yeah, it's baffling, but like I said, I don't want to get too deep into this. There's Phase Zero and our whole kind of what the hell is Marvel doing discussion episode. You guys should check out both of those. Connor, take us to something a little happier. Let's get out of live action for a minute. Let's go over to animation. What's over in your self-titled cartoon corner this week?
I had to go with the alliteration, Kofi. It's what I do.
Hopefully it's not a copyright.
It's time for the cartoon corner, ladies and gentlemen, because we had a bunch of adult-targeted anime come out this week. Starting off with, surprise, you got an extra episode of Invincible before season 2 comes out in November, and it was an origin story of Adam Eve. This was awesome. I will not lie. I sat down and watched this on Sunday, watched it all the way through, and about 10 minutes in, I went, man, I miss Invincible, because this show is just obscenely good. And it dove into a character who, when you look at her powers, you go, wow, she can kind of run circles around everybody else. And you get to see her origin, and it's freaking tragic, and it's visceral and mean in a way that only in this property kind of nails. And everything regarding how she's born, the other experiments that are basically her brothers and sisters that are all failed versions of her, how they resent her, who her real dad technically is. We get we get some just absolutely brutal final scenes with it. There's Lance Reddick gets one of his final performances in this, which always tugged at the heartstrings whenever that character appeared on screen, even though he's absolutely reprehensible. This kicked ass. I absolutely dug this.
Yeah, it was a good reminder of why Invincible was such a kind of good and has been like kind of a dark horse rise as people have caught on to it over the years since its release. But yeah, it was definitely a good reminder of why this series is different from other superhero shows, even like The Boys, but what it does, and it is like this kind of unflinchingly brutal kind of look at what life as a superhero could be, and the metaphor for social ostracization and all of that when you're like a unique person. And so, yeah, this made Adam Eve's character a lot more accessible and interesting, and yeah, I can't wait for this series to come back. It was good stuff.
Janelle, did you see this one?
I did, and I loved it. I'm not a big animation person, as you guys know, but lately animation has been crushing it. Like, I love this. I loved Spider-Verse, obviously. Yeah, this is... I was surprised by how moving this was. I've gotten kind of like... I feel like Invincible was really cheeky at times and kind of funny. You know, like there were moments where I was kind of like, oh, haha, you know, but this just felt really serious, and it was like emotional, and it was very touching, and it just makes me love her so much more. I already did love her, but now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. It built the hype for season 2 so much for me.
Awesome. I have not seen this. I haven't had yet, but I will dive in this weekend.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and there's a few little hints. We get to see Omni-Man again. There's a particular post-credit scene where they just go, "What was Mark doing during all of this?" And the answer is being a stupid kid. And the last shots of the episode are just Omni-Man's face keeps changing when he's going through his options of, do I just kill everybody now, or do I wait to see if my son can get powers? And you're just like, oh crap, we're going back to how season 1 ended. This is bad. But it's a whole lot of fun. But elsewhere in the cartoon corner, we've got the first 3 episodes of Harley Quinn season 4 have dropped. If you haven't hopped on this show, I don't know why. It is fantastic. It is a wonderful parody, not just of Harley Quinn as a character, but also it's great at poking fun at the DC universe as a whole. There's real heart to it, but it never takes itself too seriously. The first episode is about saving Nightwing from getting his butt taken away by Professor Pig. There's an episode where they're in Vegas and Clayface is doing a residency. It's just hilariously raunchy. If you've never jumped into Harley Quinn, this season is fine. You don't have to watch the first 3. But if you need something to binge, this is perfect, and it's all on Max now. So. Any thoughts on this one, guys?
I mean, yeah, Harley Quinn's awesome. That's pretty much
I haven't
it.
had a chance to watch this, so that's
I haven't seen the
I
new season.
didn't know. God, I'm having the
Kind
hardest
of
time
came in under the
keeping
radar.
track.
I'm surprised this one didn't have more fanfare.
well.
Yeah, I
Outside of
love
the
Harley Quinn.
trailer,
They can't promote anything. Yeah.
well, yeah, outside of the
Everybody
trailer
keeps
that
forgetting they can't really promote it.
they kind of dropped at Comic, but even like there were other trailers and stuff that like dropped at Comic-Con, like. But this one, just even when it hit, like I remember it just getting buried under other things, and that's nuts because this show's so good. So I agree.
Yeah. I mean, they did the Valentine's Day kind of special one, and then like I didn't know when season. I didn't know it would be this ready this fast.
It was just kind of.
I mean, honestly, I just didn't think it would be this fast. So good for Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
You got more on here.
I do real quick. Matt, you undersold my adventure with Superman. We are on episode 5 now. This show is amazing. It's
really good.
It is Superman meets shonen anime. And it is absolutely delightful. Lois has kind of already pieced together who Clark is.
Yeah.
So if you haven't jumped on this show yet, you should. And for all the old animation fans out there, Futurama's back, baby. We've dug in this corpse up for one more go around on Hulu. And the first episode is poking fun at exactly that. So,
Oh boy, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Hulu keeps trying to toss me Futurama after and I'm like, dude, I've watched this a million times. Hulu, stop it. But then today they were like, new Futurama, and I was like, I'm listening. All right, so thank you. Yeah, those are all great animated offerings you can see if you're not going out and completing your Barbenheimer run this weekend. You can check all of those out on different streaming platforms. I think Invincible's on Amazon, Harley Quinn on Max, Superman is on Max as well, and Futurama's on Hulu. So there you go. I want to take one quick minute and plug, because it's talk about things that happened under the radar during Comic-Con. I was like in a meeting this week, and I'm like, yeah, when is that Star Trek New Worlds Lower Decks crossover? Isn't that coming this week? And they're like, bro, that dropped on surprise on Saturday. And I was like, what? So I had to go back and watch that, as well as the new episode of Strange New Worlds Season 2 this week. And both were pretty delightful. One was very lighthearted and good. Jack Quaid, friend of this show, Jack Quaid, we've both interviewed him, and he loves both of us. He's
awesome.
And he's a great guy, yeah. Jack Quaid, I did the Lower Deck Season 3 when they announced this crossover at Comic-Con last year, and everybody was so psyched about it, and with good reason. Like, it was such a great, perfect synthesis of what Lower Decks does as, like, the satirical comedy Star Trek, and Strange New Worlds as this kind of nostalgic vintage throwback, and bringing those two worlds together and having kind of Quaid's character, who is obsessed with the past and the history of Star Trek, like, get to meet his heroes. But they also turned it, and this is what I love about, like, what Strange New Worlds is doing. They turned it and used the time travel aspect to kind of really mess with the dynamics of the show that they've been building in Season 2. Like, one of my favorite scenes is there's this whole conversation he has where Quaid's character, Ensign Brad Bomir, is freaking out about how Spock is acting, because in history it doesn't match, like, what he thinks Spock, so he thinks he's butterfly affected the whole thing, and, like, Spock is smiling and all this, and he's, like, trying to talk to Nurse Chapel, and he's like, yo, why is this going wrong? I think I've messed it up. Like, Spock has never smiled, like, and there's this whole thing about history, and Spock has never smiled, and she's just, like, staring at him, and her heart is, like, breaking, because her and Spock have just, like, spoilers, have started this, like, romance, and he just basically screws that whole thing up in, like, one span of a moment, and he's just like, oh, when he, like, realizes, and it's like, he does this in good and bad ways throughout the episode for different characters who begin to realize, oh, maybe I have this great future and I should get over my current anxieties or self-doubts. And, like, he's like, there's stuff with Uhura and number one, and, like, kind of reinforcing people or kind of planting seeds of doubt, like, maybe this future isn't going to work out the way I think. And so there's a seriousness to it, but also a lightheartedness. And like I said, Jack Quaid and Tawny Newsome, who comes in, you know, in the episode 2 and from their animated universe into live action, is fantastic. It's a great Star Trek crossover episode, and some wonderful surprises about taking Strange New Worlds back into the animated side of things, which is also fun. So definitely check that out on Paramount Plus. Plus, and after that, my God, talk about great. Dude, I was just talking to somebody who is a Star Trek fan about how I would just watch an entire series about Jess Bush's Nurse Chapel and Dr. Mbanga, who is played by, I don't want to butcher his name, by Babs Olanasu Mukon, and they're the two medical officers of the Enterprise on Strange New Worlds, and they got a kind of focused episode in the premiere, and then this latest episode is about them having to deal with their PTSD from the Klingon War, and while welcoming a Klingon diplomat who used to be, like, one of the worst generals onto the ship. And that's, like, a much heavier, complete opposite, such a heavy episode about war and, you know, the acts of war and what you do and who you are, like, in these different worlds, and but still wonderful Star Trek stuff. So, and that's all to say, Strange New Worlds is killing it. Check it out. Don't miss that stuff. And I'm loving it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. We might get sued. Matt, now for the thing you're real excited to talk about.
That got me sorry. Yeah, so, I mean, obviously because we've been really knocking these bonus episodes out.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt. Somebody pointed out, because I'm an idiot, in the comments, yes. And this is Jack Quaid's moment, because Jack Quaid has Star Trek Lower Decks,
that's right,
crossover Strange New Worlds, My Adventures with Superman, The Boys, like,
boy, he is killing it, man.
He is killing it real good. Like, yeah.
And these aren't small things. Like, that's awesome. These are, like, mega franchises. This is so cool. Like, good credit to him. Kudos for him.
Yeah, and his father's still killing it. Dennis Hopper in the new trailer for Strays. If you haven't seen that, Will Ferrell.
not seen it.
It's a rated R talking dog movie, and it is hilarious.
Oh, okay. Well,
yes,
you got my attention.
In one of the lines,
Talking
there's
dogs.
a cameo from Dennis Quaid, and he says, "Oh my God, I have seen something, and I'm Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Quaid has seen some ish." And it's like a great little cameo. So, whole Quaid family, shout out. You guys are killing it.
So I should not be going into this with my love of Homeward Bound being my guide.
Oh,
For
no.
R-rated
Oh, no,
straight.
Strays, yeah. That trailer was hilarious.
Homeward Bound rules.
I saw that as an ad, and it was a rare time that I stopped and watched that entire ad. I was like, this is genius.
Yeah, so over the last couple days here, the much anticipated chapter 2 of season 3 of The Witcher has dropped on Netflix. We're going to do a whole, right after this actually, we're going to do a spoiler filled breakdown of the chapter 2 and those 3 episodes that happen, obviously the finale and everything like that.
The Witcher!
But just to give you some quick little non-spoiler review, just a kind of a small mini one. There are a couple moments, and we talked about it if you watched our last spoiler episode. We talked about like the things that were coming up, the big battle that was coming up. It's been in the trailers and stuff, so I don't feel like that's crazy spoilers. Geralt's fight with Figgleforts has been one that people have been looking forward to for a minute, and what happens after. Series kind of major turning point. Like there's a lot of things in these 3 episodes. I'm kind of mixed on it from like it's kind of a weird arc because like the 3 episodes start off amazing. It kicks into gear like right away, and I loved it, and I thought they like did a really great job of like hitting these big key parts. I mean, this is a big thing to happen, so to contain it in one episode is kind of impressive. I thought they did a really good job with that, and then kind of moving into another really important thing, I thought they did a good job with that. It's just really, I think most of my kind of conflicts come from the decision for it to be 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And the decision for it to end where it ends.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of, it's really hard to kind of hit that without talking spoilers, but like, it's just some decisions that were made that I feel like kind of took the air out of it.
Yeah.
And it starts off so well. And so I just kind of
starting to go off. What Matt's trying to say is, tune back in.
Yes.
Come back to this. To our YouTube channel, and be sure after this episode this week you download our whole spoilers discussion of The Witcher Season 3 Part 2, because we are going to get into this. There's some things we got to talk about here. So we're going to get into a finer point.
So we're going to move into wrestling time. I think that's my new song. Can I coin that as a song? Wrestling time.
Hey man, we're working on possible lawsuits galore today, so go for it.
So before we get into it, we're going to actually talk about, obviously this weekend has WWE NXT Great American Bash, and that is going to be the big PLE on Sunday. And then, of course, next week is SummerSlam, and Connor's going to have you covered on that next week. But for NXT, before we get started, Rich, can we play a little, we got a little message, a little fun thing from some people here. Can we play that?
Hey everyone, this is NXT superstar Roxanne Perez, and you're listening to Comic Book Nation. Hey everyone, this is...
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wesley, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch and listen to the Comic Book Podcast. This is a great one for you to be listening to because you're going to get a mixture of every single bit of life that you really want, and also, Matt is pretty dope. So make sure that you take the time to listen and watch whenever you can. This is Wesley, dubs up. Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Booyah! I gotta say, shout out to Wesley for giving me a little love there. It's nice.
He is so good at promos. Wow.
So Roxanne Perez and Wesley are obviously going to be having a lot to do at Great American Bash. But thank you so much to them for dropping us a message. It's super cool. We got to start here. One of the most interesting things that has happened in NXT over the last 2 weeks is the fact that Dominic Mysterio from old Judgment Day came over and got the North American title, and Dom
From Wesley.
from Wesley. Now, to be fair, me and Wesley talk about this actually in an interview coming very soon to Comic Book Nation's YouTube channel. But it did take the entirety of the Judgment Day to take the title from him. It was not Dominic. It was Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic who all had to attack him to make that happen. So, a little solace there to be taken. But he's going to have a championship match here, and he's going to have it with Wesley and Mustafa Ali, a match I would not have predicted a year ago to, happen at all. But the fact that it's happening, this is probably going to be a really fun match. Dominic has proved he can move in the ring and he can roll with things. Wes hasn't had a bad match in NXT, period. Mustafa Ali, I can't remember the last bad match he had either. So I think that the 3 of them together are going to do some really fun things. There's a couple of those matches happening here. Connor, any thoughts on Dom's reign of terror?
You know, I will give NXT this. It has been gradually improving since the 2.0 days. The problem is that the sports entertainment aspect just rears its ugly head sometimes and messes with a good thing. Wes Lee versus Mustafa Ali at Great American Bash would have been perfectly fine. Instead, now we got little Dom Dom in here mucking everything up.
See, I love that. I don't think that's a bad thing.
It's frustrating. It is frustrating.
No, it's like, so great.
Give me my great matches. I don't need the guy that kind of struggles in the ring.
I think this is the fact of what we've gotten just outside of the match. I don't want to bog down too much into this, but those tend to be the things me and Connor disagree on the most, as far as like how much sports entertainment we like in our matches. I tend to like more. He tends to like less. That's kind of where we split there. But I think this is fun. I've enjoyed. I love NXT and what they've been doing over the last several months, especially. So this is fun for me. I'm excited about this. Gable Steveson, and another thing I didn't see coming, is in NXT now, and one of like WWE's most talked about prospects for like what, 2 years now? Has it been like 2 years?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, and you know we've wondered like when he's going to debut. He may had a WrestleMania moment a little bit there. He didn't wrestle obviously, but you know he got to showcase some stuff. But now he's in NXT, and his first match is going to be against Baron Corbin. Shawn Michaels talked about it in the press conference a little bit about how he just asked if he could use him. Like, hey, he's just kind of standing here. Can we use him? And they're like, yeah. And so he's had some good appearances in NXT so far, but it's awesome to actually see him get in the ring. I'm excited to see what he can do. Corbin is an interesting choice, but you know, dude's been in NXT also for the last like month and a half, so it makes kind of sense. But I'm excited to actually see him in the ring, see what he can do.
Yeah, the Gable thing is complicated because there were all of these legitimate, like, from collegiate reporters coming out saying, hey, this Olympic gold medalist, this former NCAA heavyweight champion, has a year of eligibility left, and he's legitimately considering coming back for that again.
Yeah.
To not only try and get a second gold medal, but actually keep wrestling collegiate. And you're just kind of like, okay, if he's doing all that, what's this whole WWE thing going to be?
Yeah.
And I feel like this is just a one-off where we go, hey, remember that he's signed and here's him in a match. He's going to squash the hell out of Corbin in under 5 minutes. And then you're not going to see him again for at least a year.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I would be, I'm going to say it, I would be bummed if that's the case. I hope he stays around.
Connor, but are you okay? Like, are you all right? I feel like you have, like, real concerns about people leaving you today. You're like, secret invasion, you're going to take my people away. They're
so
never
much
coming
hype
back.
Surrounding this guy.
I know. I'm just mad at you.
Yeah.
So I agree, though. I think it's a real possibility that he does because, you know, he's very talented. He's very talented. So he could definitely do it. No one would blame him for doing it. But I would be bummed if this is it for like another year. And then obviously show stealers. You know, I personally think the tag match is going to be super fun. I'm not a big huge Gallus fan, but I will say they've done a good job of holding.
But yeah.
Yeah, Gallus is holding it from NXT UK. So, like, they've been holding the titles for a minute. Tony D and Stacks, though, the family, it's their time. The mob boss of NXT is, he's got gold, man. I tell you, this is a sports entertainment.
You looked to me like I was going to be so happy.
No. I just said, I'm just looking to project my enthusiasm.
No, and it was well done.
So, yeah, I'm excited for them to have title gold. There's going to be a lot of great matches here. There's one with Nathan Frazier. It's a big, metaphor 8-man tag team. That's probably going to be really fun. There's a lot of really good. NXT has one of those reputations of, like, their PLEs. They perform. They show up and they have good matches. So I'm excited for that. And then real quick, just to touch on, we actually have an interview coming up with very soon on the channel, probably over the next week or so, with Sir Cody Rhodes of WWE. And he's got a brand new documentary that's going to be coming to Peacock. See, another reason. It's another reason to get it. Talking about his entire really his career, his spanning his entire career, but obviously there's a huge focus of the time kind of where he really made his decision to leave WWE, then his time on the independent scene, All In, AEW, like that whole kind of entire chapter to bringing him back to WWE. Though I was actually surprised that it dips further along. I mean, it really goes kind of past like Hell in a Cell and like they really tackle a lot. It was much more in depth than I expected. To be honest, it's one of the things that, like, there's a lot of really great stuff here, but the stuff with Cody and his, family is obviously very important to him. But there's a lot of stuff that really resonated with, like, him and his daughter, and Brandy Rhodes and his family, and all their interactions throughout this entire process. It's really great stuff. That's the stuff that reached out to me. That's kind of the emotional heart of it. So excited for people to see it.
I do now a lot to sing our praises, and I gotta sing it. It was on this show with who we already referenced, our friend Adi Shankar, who we did this long interview with. True. Who went? He's friends with Cody Rhodes, so we'll say that, but he passionately went on about how this guy needed to be WWE's like next big star right before he stepped back in the ring. So shout out to Adi Shankar, and hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, so very much you should check it out. It hits, I believe, the 30th, I believe it's the 30th that it hits. So definitely check that out. So, moving into comics. Speeding through, man. Things.
Oh, yeah. So moving into comics, I rarely speak up, but I'm just going to do my free promo. If you guys are wondering what we thought about Hellfire Gala, we're not going to do that here. We spare Janelle X-Men whenever we can. But we did do a whole instant reaction to reading Hellfire Gala because it was a strange day for Marvel on Wednesday. We had the Secret Invasion finale, then the Hellfire Gala, and we all came away kind of like...
It was morbid as hell. It was morbid.
Yeah, so...
It was very morbid.
I'm going to write an article about did there need to be another mutant massacre. We're going to get into all that, but we talk about it.
Spoiler, no.
And in our whole breakdown of the Hellfire Gala 2023, so... We got our hands on that issue. That's a whole event and a whole discussion. So you can listen to our bonus episode, which is about Secret Invasion in the future of the MCU and Hellfire Gala. Go listen to that after this.
Definitely. So since we're not going to be talking about that one, we're only going to be talking about one kind of spotlight book today. It's going to be for DC. It's going to be Night Terrors #2. For those who have followed the first Night Terrors, and pretty much me talking about Night Terrors at all, I love Deadman, right? And Deadman, there's a lot of Deadman in this book.
Yeah.
And hey, guess what? Spoiler. I loved it. I love Deadman. I love Deadman and Batman working together.
I like Sandman more.
Here's the thing. The fact that we actually are really starting to peel back some of the layers of Insomnia as a villain, what kind of gets him there, that stuff I thought was actually really interesting. We get there through Sandman, and I just love the idea of having Sandman be this like sidekick, this undead sidekick to Batman, who is possessed by Deadman. Like, that weird stacking scale is awesome. So the fact, and then also I like some of the ideas, like what are they called, the Sleepless Nights?
Yeah.
That whole kind of riff on that's perfect, right? And there's a really like haunting image of, Red Tornado, is that you? And he's holding his spine, he's holding his head. There's some like imagery here that it captures your attention, but also I just really enjoy the nuts and bolts of the story because of the characters that are involved in it. There's a bunch of dialogue, but the dialogue between Sandman and Deadman is interesting and compelling to me. So I've enjoyed this. Also, there are a ton of tie-ins, but there are also a lot of tie-ins that are worth your time. And I think, Joker, Poison Ivy, Nightwing, those are all great tie-ins to this event. So if you're not reading any of them, I think you're missing out, because there are some. You have to parse, not everything, but there are some really good ones out there that I think go well with this. So I enjoyed this issue. What is everybody else thinking of the Night Terrors train?
I didn't think this issue did that much for me, other than bring back the character of Sandman, who I thought was like stole the show. I would have just, if this had been a mystery and it was just Deadman, Batman, and Sandman like walking around talking and bantering, like I'd have enjoyed that. It's hard because I never thought I'd like Sandman this much as the classic.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about classic Sandman.
Yeah,
like Golden Age.
Not the other one.
Justice Society Sandman. I forget his real name right now. It's kind of escaping me. But he was a detective with the kind of the gas and all that. And, like, there's great flashback about him and working a case and all that. So I like that part of it. But I'm always hard sold on these dream sequences. I think that, as you pointed out, there are some cases where it's interesting. And we touched on that with the first one. Like, the Joker story is interesting because what Joker's vision of a nightmare is him, like, losing Batman stupidly and then having to exist without him.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. But it does feel still like a little bit of a gimmick. I know dream sequence comics are always kind of a gimmick. We've talked about this. But I said I think I'm interested to see if they pull it off when everybody wakes back up and this is all over, what those dreams have psychologically done to push different heroes and villains into new places. I think I'll be there for that. But this wasn't, this was like Secret Invasion. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't like great. There was nothing that stood out in this that I was like, ooh, I'm going to remember this issue, other than Sandman looking at him and be like, I've met Batman. And
you're not Batman.
And like being a good detective even when he's a zombie. And just the absurdity of that is fun. But
Janelle, did you read this one?
I did, and I am just loving this entire run so far. I hope you don't stop us from continuing this on, because I am a fan. I do love Deadman a lot, so more of that. And then obviously, like, just seeing Batman in this light, like, is so fun. It's so fun that it's not Batman, but it's Batman. Like, It just feels, it's getting me excited about Batman again. So I feel like you guys said it perfectly, but yeah, I just think it's action-packed. It's fun. It's interesting. It's serious too. It's creepy and intriguing. And I also, like, I think I said this from the start, I love the artwork.
Oh my God, yeah. I will say it lends itself really well to the premise. Absolutely. Connor, did you read this one or no?
Yes, I did. I'm with Kofi on this. This is never really gets higher than the level of okay. You know, it's Batman, but it's Deadman basically wearing Batman as a suit. It's the Sandman, but it's not the one that you've probably heard of or have seen on Netflix recently. Even though I think Dream of the Endless showing up in this would be really interesting. I don't know if they're going to go that far. And it also just, even like the quick flash to Mr. Terrific, it's like, oh, right, the tie-ins to this are probably a lot more interesting than what we're seeing. But for what we got, it's okay.
Moving into just real quick, Rex, Batman Beyond Neo Gothic #1 hit. This is a continuation of the last kind of living Gotham storyline in the Batman Beyond, if you've been keeping up with the Batman Beyond universe. I thought, though, even if you haven't, they do a really good job, I think, of just glossing over enough of the points and then getting you into this story. This is a Terry McGinnis we really haven't gotten before. It's a kind of weathered Terry. Bruce isn't there. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on with him that kind of is making him, to me, a more interesting character by himself. And then also we're dealing with a lot of like Gotham's, you know, there's this huge city above that a lot of the action takes place in, but then there's a whole old Gotham below that we're really now starting to explore and meet all these new characters. So they're doing doing a lot of stuff. You know, Colin Kelly, Jackson Lansing are doing this. They, to me, have a track record in DC of doing just really interesting concepts and original ideas with proven properties. And so I think they're doing a landmark job. I adored this. I thought it was great. So if you're looking to give it a shot and jump into this, you should. Avengers #3. Jed MacKay, again, we talked about in that first issue, was kind of building the team. Well, this one is kind of building the villains. This is the introducing, here's the A-level threats that can take on an Avengers level team. And he builds them all up kind of individually. And then, you know, obviously they are built to take advantage of the Avengers power set. Obviously, you're writing a book that makes sense. But I thought he did it really interesting ways, and it felt like so rarely do we get a battle that, and we don't even get the battle here yet. That's going to be in 4 probably, but we don't get a premise that like utilizes everyone. And like, oh, there's a reason for, you know, it's always like that running joke about like what people had to deal with Aquaman all the time. Well, if it's not a water, what does Aquaman do? Or if it's not, you know, if it's not machine related, what does Cyborg do? You know, there was always these things about how you could write heroes out. And it happens all the time in Avengers too. But here it's like Scarlet Witch has a real like foe to take on and a use for her power set. Vision the same way. So we're getting to highlight them. It's really good. And then Radiant Pink Volume 1, the Massiveverse is awesome. It's kicking along and doing some great things. And Radiant Pink is just really fun, lighthearted, and also just kind of takes advantage of the fun power set of being able to portal between worlds, really, but also, you know, places in time and space and stuff. So really fun. Whole volume's out. A certain someone might, you know, actually have made the back of this, so, you know, there's no like whatever there. But still, you should totally read it because I loved it enough for that to make it. So you should totally read it, and that's in stores. So there you go, comics.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. If you are just getting into the show, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, Comic Book, all one word, -nation on YouTube. Also, subscribe to the Comic Book Twitch page, because we do our live shows every Friday. Go on your favorite podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, and both subscribe to Comic Book Nation and leave us a 5-star review. That'd be very helpful. You can also find our bonus episodes on either YouTube or your podcast platforms. And like I said, this week, I mean, we got 3 episodes this week. We have our post-Secret Invasion MCU talk and Hellfire Gala reaction. We have this show we're doing today. And we will have a Witcher Season 3 Part 2 full spoilers discussion coming up right after this. So be sure to get all of that content and hear what we had to say. And shout out for you guys going back and listening to a lot of old episodes. Continue to doing that, because we said some pretty prophetic things at times. We said some things that make us look like trash now. Which one is which? You have to go back and listen to it all and find out, because there are some things we took massive L's on, and you want to be able to laugh about that. So check out all things Comic Book Nation. We are the only show that does it all for geek culture. And follow me and my co-hosts. I'm at Kofi Outlaw.
I'm at Matt Aguilar CB.
I'm at Janelle Wheeler.
I'm at Connor Casey CB.
All right. Thanks again, guys. And we will see you out there. We hope you have a good time at the movies if you are still catching up on the latest flicks, and at home with all the things we told you should be watching or reading. So have a good weekend, and we will see everybody next week as we start to get into the hellish part of summer, the end. August, my birthday. Leo season is upon us. This is Comic Book Nation. Peace.
This is...
Later.